years, we find ourselves today on this feast of St. Francis of Assisi. Perhaps this is an interesting year because, of course, for this particular feast, because our new pontiff, our new Holy Father, chose that very name, St. Francis of Assisi. And of course, he has, in some ways, living up to his own life-chosen vocation of simplicity, some might even say austerity, program, which has certainly captured the attention and imagination of a lot of people. And thinking of St. Francis of Assisi, he certainly captured the attention of a lot of people. You know, when he was born into the church in his day, there were a lot of problems. In many ways, in many places, the church seemed to be crumbling. And so we come to this figure of St. Francis of Assisi, who lived a relatively short life, 44 years. And if we read, and really pretty well any autobiography, any biography of his life, it might seem a little scary, actually, some of the things that he did. In fact, it didn't seem that he did anything in half measure. You remember probably the scene that's captured in a few movies of St. Francis of Assisi when he goes into the main piazza or the market of Assisi, and with the bishop present and his father and all of his family there, you know, he strips himself down naked, takes off his clothes, and hands all of his clothes to his father and renounces his inheritance and all of the world and just gives himself over to the service of God, church, you know. That wasn't a shocking scene. I don't know what is. But I was reading this morning, as he lay there dying, and of course towards the last couple of years of his life, he had real ill health. In fact, he had the stigmata of Christ that he had received 2 years previous. And then, of course, you know, repenting in front of his brothers and sisters and his close, you know, religious around him, that he had perhaps been a little too severe on his body. And I was reading that this morning. But then in the next line, he says for the men who were around him, basically, to strip him down naked once again, so that he might die lying naked on the bare floor in imitation of Christ. And that's exactly what he did. And I was thinking to myself, this isn't exactly a man or a saint that was given over to mediocrity. He seemed to do nothing in half measure. He was totally given and sold out to the Lord and the way of life that he believed he was being called to live out in imitation of Christ. And I was thinking to myself this morning, in light of the Franciscan spirituality and the very person of St. Francis, it might be that what the world needs today, what we need, what the church needs, is a little bit of this holy, totally given over to the Lord, what we would call fanaticism. But I'll just call it non-mediocrity. Because I think in many ways it seems that the world today and the church today, perhaps in some quarters, is kind of dying of mediocrity. You kind of go around, a lot of people today wondering what life is all about. You know, just kind of existing, going through the motions and everything, and not really having a goal or an ideal or a set purpose in life. And certainly, the life of St. Francis teaches us that each and every one of us have, you know, that graced opportunity in our own life to grow and grow and grow always in our love of God. And what's wrong anyway with a little bit of holy fanaticism, you know, or at least people may see us that way when we totally give ourselves over to the love of Christ. You know, it's interesting, if you were to, maybe each and every one of us were to know St. Francis of Assisi, even as holy as he was, I'm sure that he had faults. In fact, even Mother Teresa, John Paul II, they all had character traits that irked people. And so I think it reminds us that, the Lord wants to instill in us, of course, calling us to a certain holiness of life, but he works with the soil that we give him, which is not a perfect soil. We're not handing over to the Lord perfection to be further perfected, but, we all have our quirks and our faults and our blind sights and all things. Certainly St. Francis did. Again, toward the end of his life, he repented of the way that he had treated his body, brother body, that he had, all of what he felt were a bit exaggerated self-penances and mortifications. But nevertheless, his heart was totally given over to the Lord. So, dear friends, in this first Friday of the month of October, perhaps we can just look at our own lives and see those areas where we still may be having a certain mediocrity of spirit, where we may in some way be holding back in a way, in a manner, in a fashion of something that the Lord may be calling us to do, to give up, or maybe a particular something that the Lord wants us to give over to him. Sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's situations, sometimes it's the things of this world, even holding us back a little bit, that can hold us back very much. So let us ask today for that same spirit that so moved Francis to give all to Christ. May that same spirit of the gospel, that same spirit of Jesus be given to us. So let us ask that the Holy Spirit inspire us today to be those who imitate Christ in our own particular way, in our own particular calling, to bring the love of Jesus Christ to the world in the same way that St. Francis did in his own lifetime.